if I didn't do it. All right, I just hit the record button. Now let me find Rod, and then I will give him the microphone in 1 minute. Y'all give me 1 minute. All right, Rod, you are officially the host.
All right.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right, Jeremy, man, thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And for all of you that are attending, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to make time to actually hear the information I'm going to be sharing. So let's dive right in. I shared an email with Jeremy, which is basically my notes that I put together. And I wanted to kind of keep it simple and informative and impactful. So I said, what is going to be, what can I share? I've been thinking pretty much majority of the month. And I said, it's simple. Let me just focus on the 5 things I actually have done and executed that I know for a fact are effective and can work. And no matter what market you're in, not that you have to do every single thing, but these 5 things I found to be effective when it comes to breaking into the luxury real estate market. So I'm going to read from my notes. So if you guys have access to them, you'll be able to read along with me. I'll elaborate on each topic. And then of course, I'll, make myself available to answer any questions towards the end. So when we talk about breaking into the luxury space in real estate, I often get asked that question a lot. And what I tell people is that, first of all, it starts with mindset. Your mindset has to be that you have to believe that you can succeed in this space or in the luxury real estate market space. That's where it started with me. I actually, when I first got out here in California, I looked around and I was like, man, obviously there isn't anyone that looks like us, African American Black men and women that are in this space out on the West Coast. I came from Houston, Texas. Kind of just give you my background. I grew up in Houston my entire life. I played college basketball. I was fortunate enough to get a full ride scholarship at a small Division II school in San Diego, California. So that was my introduction to California. But then I moved back to Texas after graduating, finishing my master's degree, playing basketball overseas. My wife and I, we decided to, make Houston our home for, about 7.5 years. I'm also licensed in the state of Texas, which is where I actually started practicing real estate. I would sit at home and watch different TV shows. And the one show that really struck my attention was $1 Million Listing, which still to this day, I think it's a great show. But, one of the things I would say as a critic is that we've never seen ourselves being featured in a show like this. And I believe for me, that was a motivation that, really led me to say, hey, I can actually have success in the luxury real estate space. I just need to apply myself and develop the skills. So what I had to do is I had to work on developing the skills. So what I'm going to go into are the 5 steps that I took in order for myself, to have success and break into the luxury real estate space. And as I shared, it all started with a mindset and believing that I too myself could be selling homes like Josh Altman, Josh Flagg, and Madison Hildebrand, and all of these characters that were featured in this show. And I also wanted to be an inspiration. So I just set out and made it my mission from the time, we decided we were going to move back to California in 2011, that I could succeed and have, success in this space. Now, I will say, when you're trying to break in anything, it's an evolution, it's a process. So you have to be patient with that. And I had to remind myself that, when I made this decision to get into luxury, that I was going to be committed to it no matter what, no matter how long it took me. If it took me 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, it didn't matter. I was committed to the journey. And I think that's the thing when I talk about mindset that you have to be aware of. You can't say, oh, I tried it for 3 months or 2 months and it's not working. You have to be committed to it, because the reward is this. Once you break in, you're in. From there, it's just building out. And the one thing about luxury real estate is that it is a platform for really building and creating wealth for yourself and your family, and also for others that are involved with you along the journey of helping you build your business. So I'm going to start with number 1 out of the 5 steps that I took to break into the luxury real estate space. The first one is position yourself by building a brand identity in a luxury real estate niche market. You have to figure out what your why is. When I speak on building a brand and identifying, what your brand identity is, you have to think about who am I, what are my strengths, And, why am I doing this? And what do I want to be known for? So for myself, I had to take a step back and say, okay, how am I going to break into this space? What are my strengths? And I focused on a niche market. And I believe that if you focus on niche markets, you're going to have more success. So what I did is I thought about, okay, what are my strengths? I've got a lot of relationships in sports. I connect well with other people. So I focused on sports and entertainment. That was my niche market that I felt it would give me a competitive advantage over just trying to go out and compete with everyone else that was having success in this space, primarily in communities and neighborhoods where a lot of people that look like us that are on this call, they do not live or own properties. However, I knew that a large number of professional athletes, one, could afford the type of properties that I would be marketing and working to sell. And the second is that I could identify with those individuals because of our backgrounds and our experiences as athletes and as African Americans. So I chose that as my niche market. For many of you, it could be a number of niches that you can focus on within luxury. So you kind of have to figure out what that is for yourself. And then once you figure out your why, then you want to start to build your brand identity around your personal story, which is what I did. I focus on talking about my journey as a young athlete, my passion for sports, and the relationships that I had established. And then from there, I began to kind of build my marketing campaign around that brand identity and getting the information out, whether it be through people that I had relationships with or leveraging social media. The one thing I want to state is remember, you're the brand, and it's about how you make people feel. People are going to remember, not just what you say, but what you do, your actions, your consistency in this space. Those are the things that are going to allow you and cause you to be able to attract people and stand out. And the other thing I had to focus on was creating a game plan, then build on it, and then, build my online and offline presence. And one of the things I really did to begin to leverage that, and Jeremy can attest to this, is how we connected was through social media. I said, hey, let me go all in on this new Instagram platform that launched back in, I think, 2012. And that was new to everybody. And when Instagram first came out, you couldn't even do video. For those of you that remember, it was just photos. And I was like, this is kind of weird, because everybody was on Facebook. But I saw it as an opportunity to build my brand and build my brand identity and to show people who I was as an authentic person. Me being involved with my family, my kids, my wife, the lifestyle that we live. We spent a lot of time outdoors at the beaches, going camping, things like that I knew other people that resided where I live could relate to. And it would allow people to make a connection with me like no other. Because prior to that, the only way you really had the ability to get in contact with somebody is through their phone number, through having their phone number or their email address or knowing someone. Whereas social media allowed me to connect with strangers and people that I didn't know, but also people that I want to focus on developing relationships with in the luxury space. So I went all in on building my name, my brand on social media. The other thing that I leveraged, and I recommend you guys leveraging, especially in this day and time, is LinkedIn. What I did is create a LinkedIn profile, and then I signed up for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And what that did is it allowed me to connect with professionals through a targeted campaign search. So if I wanted to connect with business managers, if I wanted to connect with sports agents, NBA players, NFL players, business attorneys, entertainment attorneys, you can actually use Sales Navigator to target anyone that has a profile in professional categories. So that means if I want to go after just bankers, if I want to go after wealth managers, all I have to do is put in the city, the state, and basically the title of that individual's profile, and it'll bring up everyone within those cities or counties that I would like to target under those profiles. And it allowed me just to engage. And so I used LinkedIn Sales Navigator to really make a lot of connections with professionals. Social media, there's so many various platforms that we can build our presence on. But the one thing about LinkedIn is that everyone on LinkedIn is I would say I view them as professionals. They're there to conduct business, to build relationships, and to actually make connections with other people. Whereas Instagram, Facebook, and platforms like that, sometimes people are just there to have fun and, broadcast or showcase their talents or their experiences or who they are as individuals. Whereas with LinkedIn, it's really all about business. So I just began sharing success stories there. informational content, and also sharing, why I was on the platform and my reason for reaching out to them. And through that, I was able to develop relationships with a lot of decision makers that actually represented athletes on the financial side, also represented them on endorsements, et cetera. I focused on management companies, agencies, where I was able to actually make connections with the decision makers. And that's one of the great things about LinkedIn. You actually can get in front of decision makers, but you have to also understand when you're reaching out to them, these people are very busy. So just be upfront and direct about your intentions of reaching out. And some are going to respond and connect with you, others aren't. But the ones that do, that's your in and your way and your opportunity to build and to create relationships that can lead to transactions in the luxury space. So moving on to number 2 out of the 5 steps that I'm sharing with you guys today. The other is you want to become the authority and build brand equity in your market by providing value that produces results along with a great experience. I always say this, pros get paid for results. When you think about professional athletes or other high-level professionals, they get paid for producing results. And that's the expectation in the luxury space. Sellers and buyers are going to expect us to be competent, to be knowledgeable, and to be professionals. And last, they're going to want to have a great experience. And that's one of the things that I brought to my brand as I began to build authority, is I wanted to be known that not just that we sold fancy luxury properties, but it's going to be a great experience when you work with us, and that we're going to go above and beyond. So I built my brand identity around providing a high level of service. And that's why we offer the concierge services in addition to just your traditional services when you're representing a buyer or the seller. What I had to also do is I had to figure out what made me unique. And I built on that. And I felt the thing that made me unique, unlike any other agent, is that, hey, I was a professional athlete once. I played in college. I coached in college. I built relationships with some of the most well-known athletes, coaches, and also individuals that represent athletes in the nation. And when I stepped back and looked at that, I said, you can leverage this. These are relationships that the average person does not have, or the average realtor does not have. And that became my way into breaking into real estate or evolving into luxury real estate. So I began to tap into those relationships by reaching out. I held private events. I'll talk about this also later in our 5 steps, but I hosted private events. I networked my ass off. I made sure that people knew when you connected with Rod, not only was it going to be a great experience, but you were also going to learn, how we worked and the things that we did in this space to actually be unique. So moving on in my notes, also I had to show that, I knew the market and that I was someone that can be respected, and I wanted to be looked at as the authority in my market space. So what I also did was produce content that displayed my knowledge. We did various, I actually launched my own reality TV show in San Diego back in 2016 with another producer and a partner of mine at the time. The show was called The Neighborhood. You can go Google it. It's on YouTube. It aired on CW6. Actually, we started on Fox, and then this season 2 is switched to CW6. The whole purpose behind that show was to showcase my knowledge of the marketplace. And the reason why we called it The Neighborhood, it was about agents within local markets basically displaying their skills and talking about what it was like to actually live within those communities. Because where I am in San Diego and Los Angeles, there's also sub-markets like, micro cultures. Every community is going to be different. You have beach communities, you have inland communities, you have downtown, et cetera. So we basically brought in top producing agents from different markets and featured them on the show. And I just so happened to be one of the agents that was featured on the show that I was producing. So I showcased my skills and knowledge of what homes were selling for, places that you could eat in these communities, family-oriented, activities that you could do within these communities. These are all things that we highlighted and touched on, which allowed people to see my personality. Now, if you're not able to launch your own TV show, which I understand many agents aren't able to, you can launch your own blog, you can launch your own podcast, you can get involved in networking and charity events. One of the things I did that really helped me stand out here in California was that I hosted a charity event for a former NFL Super Bowl champion. His name was Linnell Hamilton, and he had a foundation called Hamilton's Heart Foundation. And so I knew that there wasn't a lot of individuals that were aware of his foundation. So we brought in a local hospital called Rady's Children's Hospital, and we focused on 3 families in that hospital that we donated money back to after we raised money through the charity event. So we hosted the event at a Agora Bentley, Lamborghini, and Rolls Royce. So it was 3 dealerships in one, basically, or 3 franchises in one. So we hosted the event there. We raised over $23,000, and all that money was given back to both Rady's and the Hamilton's Heart Foundation. And it brought a lot of awareness to its foundation and its cause, because its whole purpose was helping underprivileged children and also children that were at risk with serious health conditions. And by doing that, you know, I made a lot of media connections. I made a lot of other connections with his friends that were professional athletes, and that began to build the brand equity. It also showed people that I wasn't just about selling properties, which is that is the end game, that is the end goal. But people were able to see that, you know, I had a true passion and a heart for giving and helping others. And that helped me score a lot of points with key people that operated in this space. The other things that you could be doing, you know, within building brand equity and also showcasing your skills and your knowledge of the marketplace is you can actually send out a monthly newsletter. This is something that I do every week. I send out a newsletter, or you can do it once a month, but I do it every week. We send out a newsletter that just basically touches and highlights on the listings that we have, sold properties, properties that are in escrow, unique things that are going on in the market. Since we are dealing with a lot of sports and entertainment clients, we talk about what athletes and entertainers are buying and selling in our local markets and sharing those stories. And what we found is that people are really interested in that information, and they're actually engaged. And it's about the consistency each week that newsletter goes out. It keeps myself and my team top of mind. All of the agents on the team get access to the newsletter, and they actually share with their database as well too. So these are actually actionable steps that you can implement into your business, just as I have, to help you build authority and brand equity around your brand. And again, as I stated in step 1, you know, you have to figure out what that brand is, you know, and what you want to be known for, and then go all in on that and build on it. And the last thing I want to state is, remember this: you get rich in niches. And I want to touch on that, because oftentimes we feel as though we need to be everywhere, and that's not necessarily the case. Just own a space, you know, own a niche market like I have in sports and entertainment. Go all in there, and what you'll find is that once you grow in that space, you can expand into other markets. Going to step number 3, and I think this is really important, and this is, you know, from just my own personal experience. Building your database and developing relationships in the luxury space are so important. I know Jeremy can attest to this. You know, building relationships has led him to where he is today, to be one of the founders and leaders in real estate. And without those relationships, it's going to be really hard and challenging to actually build a presence in luxury. And I can say I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't built relationships early on in my life that I was able to later go back and tap into. So I'll share this with you. There's 4 forms of currency. There's money, there's time, there's knowledge, and there's relationships. Most people focus just on the money. When I didn't have money and I was broke, and I still was trying to make my dream happen, the other forms of currency that I was able to lean into that helped me get to where I am today when I didn't have the money was my knowledge that I invested in educating myself, reading various books around the luxury market, getting certifications. And then the others was my relationships. I took my time, which is one of our greatest assets, and I invested it in doubling down on my knowledge and the relationships that I already developed. So what I did is I went back to the coaches that I had built relationships in the college space, even at the pro levels. And I talked to them about young kids that are coming into the league. And if you knew any of those kids that you had relationships with and that, you know, trusted you, did they mind connecting me with them? And all of them said yes. That's how I got 2 of the top 5 draft picks in 2017 was from relationships. I didn't get lucky. I knew people that trusted me, that introduced me to those families. Those families, after having conversations with them about the services that we provide and why they should work with me as an advisor, don't just look at a real estate agent as someone that's going to help you to buy a home. You should look at them as someone that, just like you do with your financial planner or your wealth manager, someone that's going to help you build wealth. And why? Because real estate is obviously known as one of the key foundations to building wealth for generations, you know, and that's factual. That's actual facts. So I leveraged it in the relationships to help me get to this space, and that's important. So if you have the opportunity to build relationships with people that are in the luxury space, they don't have to be in luxury, but they if they're individuals that respect you, they're well known, they're really good at what they do, focus on going to those individuals and asking them, who do you know that's in need of selling a luxury property, or if they're looking to invest and buy a luxury asset, ask for the business, ask for those referrals. That's what I did. And that's why I'm really, really harping on the importance of developing relationships, and do not overlook them, because those will be the key and the foundation to you being able to build success in the luxury space. The other thing in step number 3 is find ways to be an asset and provide value to the community you serve. That can be community events. Examples, one of the things me and my wife did, since our daughters were new to the community where we were living and the schools that they went to, we went to the actual principal and we asked if they would put out basically an invite to all of the kids that were attending the schools that we will be sponsoring movies in the park for the summer. Well, here in California, as you guys know, and if you've ever been here, you know the weather is pretty nice and consistent in Southern California year round, and the summers are really great. So when I first moved back and was working to break into the neighborhood where we live in, which is called Point Loma, which is very well-known community on the coast, the average sales price right now is about $1.3 million. Back when I moved in, it was right around $800,000. Well, we used movies in the park to build relationships with other families that lived in the community that owned properties. And the movies in the park, I brought in other sponsors, insurance company like State Farm, title company that we worked with, and also mortgage company. So if you want to, if you're thinking about how am I going to cover the expenses for that, well, I've just shared, insurance company can help you cover the expenses. Title company can help you cover the expenses. Mortgage company can help you cover the expenses. Why? Because each one of those individuals are going to benefit if you gain business. Title, if you get a listing, you're going to need to open up title. If you represent one of those families that's looking to buy and sell, they're going to more than likely need a mortgage company to represent them, to use in order to get a loan unless they're paying cash. Also you can use escrow. Escrow companies would be willing to get in on these types of events. So I use movies in the park. I also sponsor golf tournaments, and I hosted my own golf tournaments. I also hosted private events where we invited out high net worth individuals from LinkedIn platforms, from social media, and other individuals that we develop relationships. I hosted mansion parties, if you will. They weren't actually parties, they were networking events. So we would invite out some of the top executives, business owners, et cetera, and they would all come out to our luxury mansion parties to basically see these amazing properties that were on the market for sale. And what we did is we provided drinks, food, and entertainment to basically kind of lighten the mood and create an atmosphere where people felt comfortable. And that gave me an opportunity to do 3 things. One, I got everybody's information because everyone that attended those events had to sign up through our online registration, which means we captured their name, phone numbers, and email addresses. When I talk about building your database, this is data. I took that data and I put it in my CRM. And I'll tell you about how I use that later. The second was that I got to meet all of these people face to face, and they got to see me as the authority in my space when it came to luxury real estate. So I used this as a way to to stand out amongst the crowd. The third thing was that really helped me benefit from this is that I had all of the content, the photos, the videos, all of that was content. And a lot of it I still haven't shared that I have from events that are still in my actual file folder to this day. I've got thousands of photos. I've got multiple videos that I still have yet to share, and I probably never will. Some of it I will later down the road. But the point I'm making it is from just simply choosing to host my own private event, I was able to build relationships, build my database, and get content to basically showcase the relationships and the event themselves. And we use those images and those videos to attract more people for the other events that we held later after actually breaking into hosting these types of private events. And just remember, the goal is to attract, not chase. And that's one of the things that I learned in this space is that you don't want to spend your time chasing people your whole career. And that's what's unique about developing and building a brand in the luxury spaces, because a lot of people are interested in real estate, but not only real estate, who doesn't want to see big fancy houses, the cars, and successful people? Pretty much everyone falls into that category. So my whole goal in developing my brand and my identity and building my database was to attract individuals. So I wouldn't have to spend my entire career chasing and begging someone for business. The goal is to have people reaching out to you for business. Now, I've been in California going on 10 years. And in my 10th year, I'm just now getting to the point where people are actually reaching out to me for business. And it doesn't mean it's going to take you 10 years where you are in your marketplace. But what I'm stating is that be prepared to go the distance. However long it takes, just keep putting in the work and trust in the process, because you will get there. 99% of the agents that are in the business, the things that I'm sharing with you today, they do not do and they will not do. That is why they don't have the success that oftentimes they say they want or they wish they had. They're just not willing to be consistent and put in the work. But if you follow these 5 steps and don't do anything else today going forward, I can assure you it will lead you to developing a platform and a foundation to breaking into the luxury real estate space. As I move on in step number 3, let's see. I said, oh, sorry. One of the things I want to talk about is implement systems that help to keep you top of mind to the clients you serve and seek to work with. So what I mean by that, that's a CRM. At KW, we have what's called Command, and it's a large database of CRM that lets us automate our business. And I want to talk about automation because I think that's important when you talk about implementing systems. You want to implement systems that are going to help you to basically do the heavy lifting in your business, especially if you don't have a lot of money when you're starting out to pay employees, et cetera. When you automate your business, what we do is a lot of the leads that we have coming in, we basically automate it to where we have follow-up systems that actually text and email these individuals, and that also sends them voicemails. So that could be birthdays, that could be, hey, we have this new listing coming, or hey, we just sold this property. We also can use it for circle dial prospecting, which is basically when we have a sold property in the community we just sold, we can pull records of 300, 500, or 1,000 property owners in that area of these luxury homes. And we can text, we can email, and we can also leave these individuals voicemails, letting them know the success that we've had in their marketplace, and also having a call to action for them to reach out to us if they're thinking about buying or selling. These are all actionable steps that, when using systems, can help you expand and grow your business, which the term most people use as scale at a rapid pace, especially in markets like the South where your price points are lower. So getting listings out here where I am at takes a little more time. It's a little bit more of a longer process. Whereas if you're selling a 500, 300, 600, whatever that may be in Atlanta, I'm assuming luxury probably starts around 500,000. You got millions of those properties around you. And the other cool thing about that is that most of the individuals that you're going to be marketing to in Atlanta, behind the doors are people that look like you and I. So there's an ability for those individuals to relate and feel comfortable. So implementing systems are very important because those are going to be the things that can help you scale and expand and grow your business. And then the last thing in topic number 3 is ask for warm introductions. Network luxury events you have access to on a regular. When I talk about asking for warm introductions, those are one of the things that I really leverage when I go back to talking about relationships. I ask the coaches, I ask trainers, I ask AAU coaches, I ask friends and family members that are related to certain players or athletes for warm introductions. And those people trusted me because they already had a relationship with me and they knew what type of person I was. And they knew that I wasn't just asking for introduction that I couldn't deliver on, or that I would not take care or do right by those individuals. So they had no issue with introducing me to the people that I was trying to make a connection with. And warm introductions are basically endorsements. You know, you think about the times we're in right now, presidential campaigns, and how they spend billions or hundreds of millions of dollars just for endorsement from a certain public figure or individual to say that, hey, I'm the right person to vote for, whether that's city council, whether that's your president. Getting warm introductions are really key to breaking into that luxury and into the luxury space. And if done properly, you can leverage them and they can lead to great opportunities. So moving on to number 4, and this is one of the most important things, and I had to learn this, and I learned this from, I would say, a mentor, a close agent that I built a relationship with when I first got out here. And the one thing she told me is that if you're going to have success in luxury, you're going to need to know your market better than most agents, or many of the agents. You'll be surprised that say they want to sell, but when you ask them about, hey, what's the average price per square foot in your community that you're focusing on? What's the average price per square foot in this luxury market? They cannot answer that question. So one of the things that I did, because I'm an individual, I learned kinetically by seeing it, touching it, if you will. That's how I learned. Is I started attending caravans every week. We have them on Tuesdays. Right now, they're not taking place because of COVID-19. But prior to that, I would devote at least one Tuesday a month. And you don't have to do it every week, but at least one Tuesday a month to attend caravans. And I don't know if they have caravans out in Atlanta where you guys are. I'm going to assume that they are. But caravans are basically broker open houses that we host during the week, not on the weekends. And it allows other agents to come through and learn and see about those new listings or properties that have been previously listed that are in the market. And this is countywide. So I started attending caravans in the luxury space here in Los Angeles. Why? Because I didn't know shit about the actual luxury market as far as what homes were selling for out here and what buyers were looking for. So I had to get off my ass every week and go look at these properties, talk to the agents, get an understanding of what the market was. And for 3 years, I'm going to share this with you guys. When I first, and Jeremy can attest to this, when I first came to Los Angeles, I didn't know anybody. I had friends and people around the community that I maybe went to college with or bumped into, but I didn't know real estate agents. I didn't fully understand the market. And so I wasn't making money for the first 2 years of coming up to Los Angeles, but every week I would come up and drive from San Diego and attend caravans and learn what properties were trading for in the areas that I wanted to sell. And I would talk to different agents and, get their perspective on certain developments, why they were building properties in this area, what these properties were trading for. When I use the term trading for, it's just simply what are they selling for? And what we have here in Los Angeles, unlike other markets, a lot of properties trade off market. So I had to learn the process of how homes are sold off market. So learning your market is really, really critical. And I think you also have to understand, you need to know what homes are trading for within high-end communities you're looking to serve. And I just stated that can be, what is the average price per square foot? What are buyers? What's in demand? What are buyers seeking? So when you go into a home and you're talking to sellers, and one of the biggest things we all know, sellers oftentimes think their home is worth more than what it really is, or they think their home is better than a property that's previously sold. No two homes are alike, especially in the luxury market. So when I'm talking to sellers, I have to get them to understand, hey, this is what's going on in the market today. It's not what Rod Watson is saying. It's what the market is telling us. Here's what buyers are willing to pay for. Here's what buyers want in their home today, not what sold 2 weeks ago, 3 months ago, because that's over with. It's today. So we have to look at what's pending, what's in demand. And you have to understand that. So when you're sitting and talking with a luxury seller, the one thing they're going to want to know is, are you competent? Do you know your market? And can you be trusted? And those are the keys to really breaking in, because listen, our market is super competitive out here in Los Angeles. There's not a shortage of luxury agents at all. We have some of the most top producing agents in the country across the world that are actually in this market killing it. So it is highly competitive. So when you get that opportunity to speak to a luxury buyer in your marketplace, that may be your one shot. So when you go in and sit down with these individuals, you have to know your shit, because if you don't, you may not get another opportunity. And knowing neighborhoods is really, really important. So one of the things I did, and we're going to go into this in step number 5 as we progress, is I had to develop a 12-month prospecting and marketing plan that I could commit to. Oftentimes when we get in this business, we set really large goals, but not realistically setting actionable steps to accomplish those goals. And what I had to learn is that I had to set goals that I knew that I could stay consistent with and, execute. So when I focused on learning my market, then the next step was I had to set up a farm. Like in the country, use the term farm, horses, cows, or in real estate, I know you guys have heard this term farming. Well, I had to learn what that meant, because one of my mentors, when I first got here, she said, if you're going to be successful in real estate, you need to establish a farm. Now, that could be a neighborhood, or that could be a network or an organization like a golf club or private club membership, gym, etc. No matter what, you want to establish a farm that keeps you top of mind, where you can be able to market yourself, share content around your market knowledge. Once you identify what that farm is, for me, I chose 4 neighborhoods. And out of those 4 neighborhoods, there were a total of 1,500 homes. So every month, I would actually drop monthly market updates, letting those property owners know in that community what properties are selling for, what's in demand, and basically a call to action on why those individuals should reach out and contact me based upon the services that I provide. And I'll touch on those a little bit here as we go through step number 5. But identifying your farm is really, really important if you want to have an opportunity. And I found that to be one of the quicker ways to break into luxury, because if you remain consistent with that, and you don't have to start out with 15 homes the way I did. I think a good number to start out with is like 250 or 500, and really drill down on that and put that in your 12-month prospecting marketing campaign, where you can then automate your business with the text, the emails, and the voicemails. And then you can monthly drop, whether that's postcards, whether that's a newsletter, or whether that's a market update. It's completely up to you and what your budget allows you to do. But pick one and just stick with it and commit to it. And that's how I actually got my first luxury listing, is through farming, just the way I'm sharing with you guys, by being strict with my time. Every week I walk those every month I walk those 1,500 homes by foot and delivered a monthly market update to those doors. I knocked on the doors. I had conversations with those property owners that opened their doors, and they were willing to have a conversation with me and talk about my knowledge of the market, talk about what their feelings were about the neighborhood, or whether or not they'd ever think about selling. And from that, I was able to secure my first listing just by taking those steps of being consistent every month, going into the neighborhood, dropping my market updates, and then utilizing the actual automated system where we were leaving voicemails, letting them know about our listing that was just listed. And it led to me getting my second and my third listing in that same neighborhood. So farming can actually be one of the quicker ways to break into luxury, even if you had no experience. Because keep in mind, this neighborhood, I hadn't sold one property and I had no experience of selling homes in that area. But they didn't know that based upon the information that I had created and the way that I was marketing myself. So I just want to touch on that because that's really important. The other thing is focus on providing value by offering market updates, informative information on what's happening in the community you're seeking to break into. Leverage company past sales, just sold, just listed, or your own sales. Set up an automation process that I just touched on that reminds property owners to contest their property taxes. And I know this is big in the South because our tax rate in California is only 1.25%. I know, like in Texas, taxes, vary based upon school districts and whether that property resides in those counties. And one of the things when I was in Houston that I did every year is I sent out a letter and an email reminding all of our clients. And also within a farm that I also set up in Texas, we would send out the letters to remind property owners that it's time to contest your taxes at the first of the year. And we would let those individuals know if you had any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll be happy to help you fill out the application and actually provide you with the comps to contest your property taxes. This is a great way for you to provide value and get in front of individuals that actually own luxury properties in your market space. And that was actually a strategy that we used. So moving forward, let's see what else here. So set up automation. Okay, focus your marketing message around. This is really important. We're going to end with this particular key point. Focus your marketing message around how you can add value to the customer. What we do in my team weekly is we work expireds and for sale by owners. Expires will be easier to convert than for sale by owners. For sale by owners take a little bit more skill set and practice, but if that's something you enjoy, once you develop the skills, there are quite a few luxury property owners that do think that they can sell the property themselves. But you have to develop the skills to be able to build rapport and relationship with those individuals before they will trust you, because you keep in mind they've got a lot of other top producers that reach out to them as well. What I also recommend is you can invest in platforms like RedX, Mojo Dollar, or what we use, or I invest in, it's called iList.com. It's a new platform that allows you to get data for sale by owners, expired, canceled, for rent by owners, and market to those individuals where you can actually send automated voicemail, text, and emails to them without ever having to pick up the phone with an offer on how you can help them get their property sold. So what we do is we get their cell phones, we get their emails, and then we call them, we text them, and we email them. A lot of agents in your market, they won't put in this type of work. And this is what's going to give you a competitive advantage, in my opinion, if you're just willing to implement these systems and make a commitment to them and stay consistent. We send out brochures, we send out marketing material through traditional mail, and you'll probably get around a 1% return. But in my market, let's just say I got a $5 million listing in one of the farms that we farm, which I got last year off of marketing to individuals in this neighborhood that I was going after the luxury sales. After I sold a luxury property to one of my athlete clients, I leveraged that listing and we actually automated and send out postcards, and I got a call. So out of probably 1,200 or 1,500 postcards we sent out, I got one person call me to list their property. Well, that's $100,000. And it probably cost me, I want to go back and look, but it was probably around $600 or so to send out postcards to all of those individuals. So just think about that. A $600 investment led to a six-figure paycheck. Now, that's my market. You have to figure out what that high price point is in your market in Atlanta. I'm not sure what, where that is, but nonetheless, even if you spent $400 to make $30,000, I mean, where else can you do that, and consistently get results? So that's why it's so important to form. I also would say focus your market message around how you add value. And this is what we use. We really focus on this because it's important and we understand this helps us stand out. Professional photography, virtual tours, newspaper ads, or PR, where you're leveraging media to bring exposure to help curate a narrative to basically sell that property that gets the attention of the target audience or ideal buyer that you're looking to sell to. Facebook ads, open houses. We also used, I just brought it up, not open houses, but Caravan. And you also focus on markets where sellers are selling and where there's demand. And so when you're farming in that area, you don't want to just kind of go into neighborhoods where there's no turnover. They typically say focus on communities where you've got 10% or more turnover. 7% is still a good number. Or you focus on where there's demand and buyers are looking to live, then that there's a heavy buyer pool seeking homes in that area, and you can curate your message around helping property owners connect with those buyers through your consistent marketing campaigns. So these are basically the 5 steps, and I've shared these notes with Jeremy. So if you don't have them, he'll be happy to email them, or you can, at the end of this interview or this conversation, I'll provide you guys with my email, or you can send me your email and I'll forward these notes to you. The one thing I'll say in closing is if you're not in the position to execute the above, then join a team where you can learn the business and grow your knowledge and confidence. And then you can begin to execute these 5 steps. So in closing, if you have any questions, I'll stick around and make myself available. And I appreciate you guys giving me your time to share this information.
Oh man, that was amazing right there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna open it up for a Q&A. So if y'all have any questions, we'll open this up to just a random conversation. So who's first? I know y'all have some questions.
Hey, Azure.
Okay, Azure.
So going back to where you say you were hosting events, did you host the events with the property that was in your brokerage, or was it with like another brokerage you kind of teamed up with another agent?
Yeah, I've done both. At the time when I first started hosting events, I was with Pacific Sotheby's of the Sotheby's brand, and we featured our own listings. And there were times where I featured listings with developers, meaning actual builders, and also other agents that had luxury listings that were interested in collaborating. So I've done both. And if you're wondering how you do that, I mean, for me, I'd already kind of built up a presence online, and just, within the company I was at Sotheby's, with having a TV show, I leveraged that and was basically like, hey, we have a strong database and audience of high net worth professionals, athletes, entertainers, et cetera, that attend our events. And I think this would bring great exposure to your listing. Or if it was one of our own listings, we would explain that to the property owner, the seller, and they got it. They understood it. At the end of the day, when you're hiring a listing agent, you want someone that's connected and that can get as many eyes of qualified buyers and as much attention around that property as possible. So that's what I leveraged that I had available to me. You have to figure out what you have that you can leverage through a relationship or through things that you have access currently that would be appealing and bring value to that particular property owner, or to that agent, or to that to that particular developer.
Okay, that was a good question right there on it. Yeah, exactly. Just being, like Rod said, being creative and finding ways. You may know somebody, hey, I could bring more attention to your house, if you allow me to feature this house or doing some things. At the end of the day, everybody's chasing check, and they want to sell their houses as quickly as possible so we can get to the closing table. Right. So they want to get out. All right, here's the next question. You have a question? I got any questions?
Hey, Rod, it's Edwin. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes, Edwin, I can hear you.
About the 10%, man. So you say 7 is a good number as far as like farming? Because I've been looking at some neighborhoods. I picked my community, but I think I'm gonna have to ease in the luxury. The average price, because I'm focused on Decatur, Georgia, is about 600,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But I'm looking for pockets. People move in, they stay, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So that market is hot, is what I hear you saying.
Yes, sir. They currently it's going through gentrification. So it's the city of Decatur is one of the top communities in the nation. But it's a brown, the railroad track thing. Let's say it like that. It's a good part and it's a part that's not so good. But the people that's in the good part, they starting to expand out because they running out of room in their community. So I'm starting to see it slowly. Like for instance, it's they just built some townhomes across the street from a bus terminal, and they
Okay.
starting off at like 400,000. But like some of the people who move in some of those communities, they I don't know if I could find 7%. Is 6 too low?
6 isn't too low. If you know there's demand in the area, there's a couple of things you can look at. You can get with a title rep, and you can kind of get with that rep to see what that turnover demand is, and they can provide you with records of properties that actually fit the criteria of what's selling. Meaning, if 4 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms are in demand, 4 bedrooms are in demand or 5 bedrooms are in demand, and they're selling more consistently at a higher price per square foot, then only focus on what's in demand and go after those property owners by marketing to them. That means that could be, a postcard through direct mail, or actually door drop, or a letter that you put on their door, letting them know that, hey, even if you didn't sell a property in that neighborhood, that this property just sold, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, this many square feet are in demand, and that you have buyers. And if you don't have buyers, that you are aware and you have the ability through your proven marketing strategies to attract the right buyers for their properties and see if they're willing to have a conversation with you. And that's how I would go about it, honestly, to focus on. If there's enough turnover, even if it's 6%, find out what homes are in demand. What do buyers want? Because buyers determine the market, period. And if you know what they want, then you can focus on finding those sellers that have some form of a motivation now in the next 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months out, that have plans to sell within that area that meet the demand of what buyers are looking for. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. That was a great answer. I really appreciate it. I never thought about the title rep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gold, man. Lean on your title reps. That's what they're there for.
And then also too, use that RPR. I've been really, really preaching to y'all that RPR has so much data in there. And so if you're trying to really dive into a community, where is it a good, is it a bad, RPR would kind of let you know the turnover, what Rod is talking about, walkability, some of the things, how many bedrooms going. So, he's really talking about diving into it. And then Rod, I'm happy you said that, because I've been kind of preaching about, sometime in Atlanta, we focus all over the place in Atlanta. We be in Decatur, we be in Lithonia, we be all over. But, he became an expert in his particular market. So y'all have to really, really, I think I'm glad you said that, man, focus in on that area. And the funny thing is that when you was talking about over the 1,500 homes, I remember when I first started farming, I jumped out too big. I jumped out over 3,000. And my pockets wouldn't let me keep up with 3,000 community. So make sure you pick a community, maybe 200 homes that y'all can actually, like Mara say, consistently get something out to them.
And that's the key. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. And I agree with you, Jeremy. I same thing. I bit off too much I could chew. I was excited and had a motivation. But when you got to walk 1,500 homes, that's a whole different ballgame. And when you got to consistently support the marketing budget that it takes, that I believe that's really too many for any agent. So I would say I would make 500 to be my cap. Start out with 500, dominate, get your first listing in that 250 to 500, and then you continue to expand and leverage that first listing, and that first listing will get you the additional listings thereafter, as long as you remain consistent. Yeah. The other thing too, I'll share with you guys, and this is big because I was in Houston, and Houston has a lot of new construction, just like Atlanta. Focus on new construction communities that you've sold in. And a lot of times people say, well, why would you focus on a new construction community? Here's why. Most people that buy new construction communities will sell within 3 to 5 years. So it takes 3 to 4 years for a new community to close out. So as I mentioned about a title rep, get with that title rep and focus only on the homes that have been owned for 2 to 3 years. Majority of those people are due. At least 20 to maybe 30% of those individuals are going to be moving in the next 12 to 6 months after purchasing a brand new home. And here's the reason why. There's divorce. There's, hey, we bought in this community, we really don't like it as much. Or, hey, our financial situation has changed. we're looking to move up, or our company's relocating us somewhere else. Those 4 things are tried and true, even in new home construction sales community that are actually just, I would focus from 2016 to where we are around 2019, and focus on those property owners that have bought in the last 3 to 4 years within those new construction communities. And what you'll find, if you start setting up shop and farming there, you have no competition. You have zero competition. You become that go-to person within that luxury space of those new home communities and make the commitment. I've got 250, I've got 500. I'm going to stay committed. If I don't make a damn dollar in 24 months, do not abandon ship. Watch what happens in the 36 month, in that 4th year. Just stay consistent through that process. So I would go after new construction communities where homes were built from 2016 to 2018.
That's a good thing. That's a nugget right there, I know there should be a lot of. All right, Mark, I got a question for you. How important is it to developing your brand in real estate? You know, has your brand helped you, you know, get into avenues or markets that you think that without it, you wouldn't be able to get into? Or you find a lot in LA that people are going back in and researching you first, then giving you an opportunity? So
Yeah.
How do you think your success and your ability to brand yourself has been?
I say this often. All of my success, aside from just my work ethic, it comes down to developing and focus on building a brand. I didn't want to just be a real estate agent. I wanted to be an advisor, someone that was trusted and authority in my marketplace. And just like you see various, you know, entertainers, business professionals, et cetera, or big companies focus on developing the brand is you at the end of the day. And it's also the service you provide and how people perceive you and what people say about you when you're not around, or about the products and the services that you offer. So I believe that branding is really, really important. And I talk about this in my course, which, by the way, if anyone's interested in taking my course, it's free. And I go all in about how to develop a brand and build an identity in a niche market and basically generate 6-figure plus type income. So branding really comes down to who you are, the services you're providing, and being able to back those services and stand behind them. So I would say that everything that I've accomplished has definitely come from me focusing on developing and building a brand in my space and building my identity as the go-to person when it came to sports and entertainment. Meaning, for a sports and entertainment professional that's looking to sell a property in Los Angeles or buy a property in Los Angeles, the goal is still to this very day is to become the trusted. It's like there's no other decision to make. You go with LA VIP. And so, yeah, I definitely think that it's important, and you should definitely be focusing on that in your marketplace if you're not currently doing so.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, I have
All
a
right.
question. This is Asher again.
Go ahead.
So Rod, what are some specific things that you did to focus on finding what your why is?
Yeah. Well, I wrote down like, one, what did I want out of this? What did I want to see at the end of the day for myself after putting in the work that I knew was going to be necessary? So for me, I wanted to be able to create opportunities for other people that looked like you and I. I wanted to inspire individuals to know that they could actually enter this market and have success. The other was I wanted to develop and build wealth for my family. I have 3 daughters and a wife. And I never wanted my daughters to be in a position where they had to ask somebody else to sit at their table or to accept them within their company or their organization or determine their worth. And I knew that by doing what I'm doing today and creating a legacy that I could leave to them, that they could step into this business and work because of the name and brand that I've created amongst the clientele that we serve, that was value. So those were more or less my whys to begin with. And I wrote them down. And then, I asked myself these questions. It took me, a few days, but just asking, what did I want out of this? What was the purpose behind it? And at the end of the day, what was the end game?
That's a good one, man. That's a real good one. I think that's very important in the beginning, understanding your why. Mine's, I have, I had a 15-year, I got a 15-year-old son. My son was my why when I first got into it. I remember, waking up every morning like I have to provide for him. And so it pushed me to get up at 5 in the morning and pushed me to stay a little bit later and make extra phone calls and invest. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And you also, along with that why, you have to also be willing to ask yourself that question is, what are you willing to sacrifice? Meaning, are you willing to sacrifice that fancy car or that lifestyle that you desire that, you might be making enough money to do those things, but is it more important than the end game? Is it more important than the long-term goals? And what are you willing to give up to accomplish what you say you want? So those are questions I had to ask myself as well too, and then say, okay, what are we going to sacrifice to get there? And I had to make a decision. And there was things that I had to sacrifice and go without, or not have, or just not be focused on until I actually was at a position where I felt, you know, when it was the appropriate time, then I could have those things, and then I could focus on obtaining those things.
Mm. Hey, Rod, I got a question on it.
Yeah.
What do you think are the 3 most important things you have to have or understand to develop a brand?
The 3 most important things, I would say awareness of who you are.
Yeah.
And the other is your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is identifying who your target audience is. Who are you trying? What the target audience, meaning what value can you give to them? How can you make their lives better? Yeah, you know, and with that, you know, what value you're going to bring to them, understanding what their needs are, right? And then offering a solution, or offering something that's going to address the problems and issues that they're having in that space.
That's perfect. Perfect. Anybody else got any more questions now? No?
Yeah, don't be shy.
No, yeah, no, I mean, really, this is your opportunity. You know, I know all of us have dreams of building a brand, and, you know, I think, okay, how consistent do you think a person has to be on social media for pushing their brand? How much
No,
you like to post or
I have mixed feelings about it, because when I first started out on social media, I didn't really have the understanding of the impact that these platforms can have on us, because sometimes it's negative. But I would say the consistency aspect of it, you know, you would at least want to try to drop some form of content once a day. I know that may sound like a lot, and as long as the content is informative, impactful, or it sheds light on who you are as a person, or the relationships that you have, I think once a day is important. And then, of course, you know, if you're offline, things like newsletters, things of that nature, be consistent with it on a weekly, monthly basis. But social media in itself is kind of a double-edged sword, because I know at times it can get daunting with a lot of the garbage and trash that we see on these platforms. But then the flip side is you take the approach to say, I'm going to be that positive light or beacon in my community, or in my neighborhood, or the people that I'm connected to. And the content that I put out is going to be around the things that I'm passionate about and the things that I'm pursuing in life, and I'm sharing my life journey. So if you look at it from that perspective, and you want people to connect with you, unfortunately, you're going to have to be consistent on the platform. So for me, I try to drop content at least every day on 3 platforms that I'm on consistently. That's LinkedIn, that's Instagram, and you know, the other is, you know, I do a lot from time to time on Facebook, but not as much as I used to in the past. But those are typically, but I run ads consistently across those platforms. And the ads are the automation. So if you have a budget, that's where the ads become key. And that's how I built my brand. When I was on the radio, I ran ads a lot because I had free advertisements. So I would place my own spots on my own radio show, and they would drive traffic to my website. And then the other is I ran ads on social media at a fraction of the cost, and I still do to this day, with whether it's whether it's content, or whether it's actual ads to actually get a buyer and seller. Those ads we push out on a daily basis, so it keeps our content or my face or our company or our agents out there in front of the general public on a daily basis.
So you're highly investing in running ads and social media. That's important. I tell everybody, you post a picture, but sometimes you got to boost that picture. You know, Facebook and Instagram, they be tripping sometimes. They only let you get to a certain audience, especially when they realize it's your business.
Yeah,
So I have a
you gotta be strategic. Yes.
Okay, so sorry, hypothetically, right? If you were a new agent just starting out within a pandemic, how would you navigate getting your name out there and networking beyond social media?
Great, that's a great question. Well, I would look at a few things. Being the fact that we're in a pandemic, we know that a lot of people are hurting, a lot of people are in need, there's a lot of confusion. So you can develop a collaboration where maybe you're doing an outreach where you're providing masks or you're providing some form of safety to the elderly or to people within a community or a neighborhood. You can get with other outreach organizations that are addressing any social issues around social unrest or dealing with racism or Black Lives Matter. There's a number of things that, you can focus to try to make connections and collaborate on, as long as it's positive, to be able to get your name out there in front of a community or a neighborhood. So for real, something I would perhaps do, most communities and neighborhoods right now, people are still staying inside, they're staying locked down. So you can be creative with your company branding or your logo and say, hey, look, we want to provide these masks and these sanitary, little small, what do you call them? Hand sanitizers, right? That's branded. So you give someone a mask and a hand sanitizer with a personal note in each bag. So if you got 250 homes, that's 250 masks, hand sanitizers, and personal notes that you can write out and you can leave on the doorstep. You don't actually have to knock on the door, or you can ring the doorbell, leave it there, and when they open the door, they're going to see it sitting there. They're going to get your personal note. They're going to be appreciative of the hand sanitizer, I'm sure, and the mask, because right now, masks are still required in most places, at least where we are out here, that people have to actually wear them when they go to the grocery store, when they go into public places. And you can have some humor in the note that you write to them. Be authentic, be your actual self. And that's one way you can stand out and make connections and let people know that if they ever have issues, or not issues, if they're ever thinking about making any changes, making a move, they want to know what's going on in the marketplace, they can contact you, and you can be a trusted advisor and a voice that they can reach out to. Everything's about connections, period. So I would just focus on trying to make connections that are natural, and focus on things that align with your values and who you are as a person within the communities that you serve, where you can reach out to those individuals.
That's cute. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a good question. I had somebody in the group chat asked how can they sign up for your brand class.
All right, 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to drop it in the group. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to drop it in the group so you guys can all have access to it.
And so,
1 second here.
like I said before, the reason I brought Rod in, he has developed a phenomenal brand in a real tough market. We all know that LA is one of the toughest markets to break in when you're talking about luxury. So his testimony of breaking into that market, I want y'all to be inspired by that and let y'all know that Atlanta, we don't have that many obstacles as he has there, because like I said, you have a high concentration of minorities or buying in that price point. But what's going to make it, half of the agents are not going to put in the work it takes to be successful. They're not going to invest back into their branding, what he talked about. They're not going to do their monthly mail outs. They're not going to knock on doors. And so you have to determine yourself, are you going to be that agent really going to put the work in to get into whatever market and become a specialist in whatever area you want to? And so I was inspired by it.
Thanks. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I obviously likewise with you, what you're doing there and what you've created. You created a utopia of Wakanda for us as, young Black people, men and women in real estate. And that's honestly I've never seen it done. Especially not at the level where the level where you're at, and the amount of agents that you have engaged right away. And you guys are fortunate. I don't say that to be facetious or anything. I say that because Jeremy is a great person and a true leader, and you don't find that in this industry. It's a lot of bullshit and just snakes, and just when it comes to us, we get treated completely different. So it's amazing to see what you've created, Jeremy, and I'm fully behind it. Any way I can be a support, I'm here. And also, guys, I just dropped my course. It's free. There's no cost. I'm not expecting anything. You can take it. If you don't, doesn't matter to me. But if you do take it, I can assure you that the information that you'll take away from it is going to be impactful. And if you actually put those things into play, you will have success. And, breaking into luxury, we hear that term a lot, but I will say this: you evolve into luxury. You evolve into it based upon your effort and your commitment to be consistent, to do the necessary things until you see the results that you're expecting and that you work for, period.
Okay. We got one more last question, right? And I'm going person said, when you're talking about branding, could it be something that you enjoy doing? And she's talking about marketing and branding. She said, when you're talking about branding, could it be something you enjoy doing? Yes, that could be.
I think it has to be. I think it's a must, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to maintain. Just think about it. Anything that you don't like doing, most cases, just in habit, when we have to do the necessary things that we know are going to get results, we don't oftentimes want to do them. But I think it helps when you're actually pursuing something that you're passionate about. That's why I chose sports and entertainment as my niche, because I'm going to be honest with you. If I was just focused on trying to compete for luxury listings with other top producing agents, which 99% of them don't look like me, I probably wouldn't have maintained the level of consistency that it took for me to break in. But I do believe focusing on a niche and the things that you're passionate about absolutely helps and makes a big difference and makes it fun. Like, I don't ever wake up and say I'm sick of, trying to build my brain in this space. I like the challenges. I get a lot of them, but you know what? How I'm built and who I am as a person, I just don't fucking give up. And that's the end of it. Like, I know I'm going to get to where I need to be, regardless of what the circumstances are, regardless of what the obstacles are, because I love what I do. And I love the niche market that I'm working in. And I love the people that I'm working with.
And now y'all ask me why I wake up so passionate. This is another person that had the same passion as me. I'm talking to Rod, and he on West Coast time, 4 hours behind me, but he's still up, and doing his work and still developing content. That's what separates, a regular agent than versus a top agent. It's just that.
And I would say this in closing: the goal is to build a business. It's not just to be an agent; it's to build a business, and it takes time to build a business. I had big dreams and visions when I moved to California. Me and my wife and my 2 daughters at the time, before we had our 3rd daughter, I had comfortability. We owned houses, we had real estate, we had relationships with great people, but I chose to come to the hardest market in the nation to actually build a business and a brand. It's taken me almost 10 years to do that, but you know what? I was committed to that from the time I made the decision to come out. So I would just say in closing that no matter how hard it gets, as long as you're committed to it and you just stay focused on it, just put in the work and enjoy the process. And there's going to be times where you may have to make changes or adjust or adapt, but just don't say, hey, this is too hard, or, I'm not getting the results I want in 6 months or a year. Like, to really evolve and get into the luxury space, I'll just say this: all the agents that I work with, the top producing agents, you know how many years they've been doing luxury? Been in the business 30 years, 25 years. That's what I'm competing against. And I'm in year 3 in Los Angeles, and I still have a long ways to go. But I enjoy the process and the commitment that it takes to get to where, those individuals are. I understand that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of setbacks, but it's just staying the course and working to get better every day, which, if you take that approach, you're going to get results. And it's rewarding at the end of the day. When you guys start closing those deals and getting those checks, that's rocket fuel. So focus on business, building your brand out. And then if you focus on a business versus just being a one transactional agent, just like Jeremy focused on building a business, building a brand. Follow his lead, follow his suit, but just implement those things in your own personal business.
And I just said with my photo shoot. So who's following me with my photo shoot? I did that on purpose. I said, hey, if I'm going to be, taking this brand to the next level, I want to show y'all about stepping out and stepping correct. So I'm looking for that next person. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Can I get one last question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
So one of my issues, where do you draw the line between authenticity and unprofessionalism for some people? Some, I don't know. Everybody considers something professional, and I don't know, man. I don't want to come across the wrong way by being myself. Like I've been told that I can't be myself. I got to be professional.
Well, what's your name again?
It's Edwin again.
Okay, Edwin. For me, professionalism comes down to this. It's being respectful, one, of yourself, 2, of other individuals as far as their time and within the context of what you're having conversations around, meaning business and real estate. And so I think as long as you're being sensitive to other people's opinions, their concerns, or in particular dealing with clients, the things that they're voicing that's important to them, it's about listening, it's about hearing them. And then in response, it's being able to actually respond in a manner which you're conveying that you understand where they're coming from, you understand what they're dealing with, even in frustration. Like, example, I get people that cuss me out when I'm reaching out to expireds, but I say, hey, listen, I may have caught you at a bad day. I understand. Can I follow back up with you at a later date? That diffuses the anger and the frustration because it's not really directed towards me. They don't know me, but I still maintain professionalism. I don't allow the fact that they're mad and they're cussing to rattle me. I don't come back with, well, F you too, whatever. Like, you can't get caught up in that. You have to understand that this isn't personal. This is business. And sometimes people bring emotions that have nothing to do with you into business. But the key at all time is you're the trusted professional that has to understand that no matter how people are coming or what they're saying, you just stay calm and reply in a manner that always says, I'm in control. And I understand what being a professional means, what that means with your actions and your words. I hope that answers your questions, but that's how I deal with negativity or people that oftentimes have negative things to say or negative responses.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Great answer. I appreciate it.
And I don't mean when you get in the car, you can't cuss them out your mind or your head. You just don't do it out there.
Gotcha.
All right, I think we got one more. You got?
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, Rod, it's Shawana.
Hey, how's it doing?
Yeah, I told you yesterday that you were gonna be lit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I hope
Yeah, so I think the information, I just only have remarks. I think the information was really good. And I think that, with the 5 steps, we were given the ultimate playbook for breaking into luxury real estate. I think with the 5 steps, you don't even need a 6.
I agree.
That's a great compliment. Yeah.
I thank you and I appreciate that, and I agree, and that's why I said let's keep it simple. Keep 5 steps, because I know that those 5 steps help me get to where I am, and I know that they can help all of you guys. Even if you take a handful of them and apply them, the only thing I'll say is just take action. If you truly want to break into luxury, just take action and follow a handful of these steps. You'll be ahead of 99% of the people that are in the business. I saw someone said that they did not see the text that I put in, but I did put in the notes or in the question section. I believe I put the link in there. Jeremy, do you see it to the course?
Yeah, we got it. We just sent it into our group chat, so they can log onto the group chat and they can have it.
Yeah, if you guys can go there and sign up. It's free. You can go there and sign up. If you have any questions, just let me know. But you just take the course on your own terms and time. It's all modules. There's, I think, 40 modules total. There's actually 10 sections in the course that break down from start to finish how to develop a personal brand and build your name and actually build a database, clientele, and the actionable steps that some of these things I talked about in our 5 steps came from the course.
All right, Ms. Harris, I think you said you have one question, and we're going to let you be the last question.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to piggyback off of Edwin about being professional and borderline unprofessional. So when it comes to branding, I was asking the question, finding your niche and what you enjoy doing. For instance, I enjoy cooking. I'm a vegan and I like holistic wellness. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out, how do I kind of like incorporate that into my real estate brand without being unprofessional? Great
question. I think the way you do that is a couple of things. You can actually connect with community. Like, say, for instance, you pick a neighborhood that you want to sell in. We know vegan lifestyle is growing, and it's growing rapidly. And in the South, I would have to say, I'm guessing, but correct me if I'm wrong, there are very few vegan options, maybe restaurants or places where people can go and get quality vegan food, unlike here in California where I'm at. So what I would say is that you could offer vegan cooking classes where you partner with someone, a chef or a kitchen, that will allow you to bring in clients, because it's a benefit to them if they got people from the community coming into their restaurant and you're hosting a cooking class or some type of sampling of vegan entrees, etc., or that's focused around your brand and welcoming these individuals out into a professional setting highlights you, who you are as a person, and your brand, if that makes sense. That's just one example, but you can tap into that in deeper levels where you are actually leaning into that passion of being a vegan and living a holistic lifestyle. The other side to that is I have to assume there are a number of people that take the holistic approach, especially when it comes to Western medicine. Holistic approaches are very big, and I'm highly favorable to taking holistic approaches over Western medicine practices. So with that said, you can reach out to industry leaders, influencers that have a following, have an audience that you can engage with around providing some type of education, informative information around holistic approaches pertaining to how people eat, dealing with health issues, especially in the Black community, because we know we deal with an array of health issues from heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera. I can go on and on. So those are ways that you can tap into your passion and into a niche and provide value. And believe me, there are people that live in wealthy neighborhoods that take holistic approaches or that are actually pursuing a vegan lifestyle, especially when it comes to families and their kids and getting their kids to eat foods that are non-traditional, which means the burgers, the fries versus eating the, barbecue cauliflower, whatever it is. Taking those vegan approaches, I think I would focus on that and look at ways to make those connections to then offer value back to the audience that you're trying to serve.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, I think that was an amazing pouring into you, Rod. I really, really appreciate, man, we taking time out of your schedule to talk to our family down here. Just know that, in LA, you have a family here. So when you come here, we'll be ready for you and hosting anything you need from us. So everybody, thank y'all for tapping in. This is, Rod was our featured guest of the month. Next month, we're going to have Jane Bunn. Jane is currently still with Compass, but she's going to actually launch her own company. And Jane teaches in luxury. She has a class, so it's called Luxury Lab, Rod. I think she has, Luxury Lab.
Luxury Lab.
So she's gonna really dive into you, and I hope y'all be prepared. We'll have the training company calendar come out at the end of the week, and so y'all be able to plan accordingly. All right, let's make him proud, and let's. And if y'all have any referrals in LA, y'all know who to send them to. Send them directly over to Rod and his team, and they'll take great care of you. We're forming a partnership between Atlanta and LA, and he got our back up there. All right. Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.
And I'm going to send you a copy of this video too, Rod, so you can have it.
All right, I appreciate it, Jeremy. Thank you guys all for staying on and attending. And if I could ever be a resource or help any of you, don't hesitate to reach out. Jeremy has my contact information. So look forward to hearing from you. When I come to Atlanta, I'll definitely be connecting and giving you guys a visit. I can't wait to see the office, man, and meet all your agents.
Yeah, we're waiting too.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
I'm going to get my ball ready, so I need a 1v1.
Oh,
you ain't ready. You ain't ready.
The best. All right, y'all be blessed. And, let us know if y'all need it.
All right, Jeremy, much love, man. Y'all stay up.
All right, y'all.
Thank you.